This is Milton Pedraza, CEO of the Luxury Institute. Today I will share some actionable methods to dramatically improve your corporate coaching program and your measurable outcomes by mastering accelerated practice. A method to practice that we have innovated into our high-performance client relationship building system. Today, companies of all sizes are investing millions of dollars and thousands of employee hours annually into coaching programs for executives, managers, and frontline teams. And that's great because there's scientific evidence that coaching works. As Dr. Atul Gawande, a Harvard surgeon and a doctor who is an innovator in medicine and in high-performance methods, and who has a coach to improve his surgery skills, says, coaching done well may be the most effective intervention designed for human performance. I would add that if your coaching is not done well, you may as well not waste your resources on coaching. Most companies do not execute their coaching programs effectively because they don't have an equally powerful practice methodology. In fact, practice today in the business world is the stepchild of coaching. Its critical impact on building expertise in any job function, from the CEO to the sales associate, is completely underestimated and or underutilized by human resources experts, as well as the executives, the managers, the frontline associates themselves. Just because we've implemented a coaching program doesn't mean that we're achieving statistically significant and measurable results. And if our coaching program is not achieving major results, it will not achieve a return on our investment. The reason I'm so passionate about this point is that we engage with many brands annually. And the one observation that is crystal clear after applying neuroscience and the science of high performance over 10 years with dozens of companies to achieve dramatic sales increases is that companies fail to execute the X factor of coaching. And as a result, we are starving our people from the most effective performance-changing ingredient of the coaching program. That X factor is practice. And not just any kind of practice. It takes what scientists call deep practice, deliberate practice, purposeful practice. In our program, we call it accelerated practice because it's designed to help people get better faster. And the testimonials and the results say that when applied as prescribed, it works. Now, there's a tremendous amount of research on the effects of practice in many professions. Dr. K. Anders Ericsson is the most important pioneer in the scientific study of how expertise and high performance are achieved. Ericsson and many of his colleagues have invested decades in studies on how deliberate practice leads to skills mastery, which leads to expertise in multiple professions. In his most recent book, Peak, he makes several critical points that apply in the corporate world. One, many professionals today have decades of expired experience. Many of their skills are obsolete, no longer valid. And technology and artificial intelligence are accelerating that deterioration in skills. Number two, the differences between expert performers and average and poor performers is not genetic talent. Even those individuals with genetic talent must struggle, must work over long periods of time to become top achievers. And number three, and this is critical, the differences in levels of expertise in any profession, including business, reflect a lifelong period of deliberate practice to improve performance. People who have average talent can outperform those with genetic talent if they determine to practice deliberately with a good coach over long periods of time. Another expert on high performance, Dan Coyle, who's the author of several books on individual and team performance, including a book called The Talent Code that I strongly recommend, found in his research that only one factor, deep, long-term practice, done correctly, is what makes top achievers in any profession. And he states that deep practice, one, literally rewires the neuron connections in your brain so you can access your best moves when executing live. Deep practice sessions require lots of repetition and refinement of a skill to wire it into your brain and make it accessible, to make it second nature so you can access it when you go live. 2, deep practice requires hard work, extreme attention to detail. It requires making mistakes and self-correcting, but in a practice setting, not when executing live. You cannot be as discerning when you're executing live as you can be in a practice session. By the way, in those practice sessions, mental struggle is not optional. It's mandatory. It's required to get your skill circuits to fire optimally and get wired in the practice so that when you're in the live moment and executing, you can access those skill circuits. Number 3, deep practice requires dividing your skill sequences into small subsets or chunks, and then practicing those in isolation in a practice environment so you can analyze what works, what doesn't work, and you can do that alone or with a peer or with a coach. Many of these sessions will mostly be alone, so you need to learn how to do it. And then you can correct the mistake immediately, get it right, and then wire those correct thoughts and behaviors into your brain so you can access them easily when you go live. Now, both of these experts, Erickson and Coyle, state that practice works better, and this is critical, when you do it in small periods of time, say every day for 15 minutes, as opposed to once a week for 2 hours. They're both very adamant about that small but critical detail of how to practice. So why is the failure to practice critical performance skills the norm among really smart and highly educated business professionals? Imagine this. If our airline pilots or the Navy SEALs on a mission or our hospital surgeons told us that they didn't practice their skills before going into action because, hey, they learned it in school or they just learned by going live daily and practicing only on patients, we would be shocked. And we would think that they were unprofessional, or they just don't get what being an expert performer in their craft requires. Because in those professions, the stakes are too high. Lives hang in the balance when they execute. And yet in the corporate world, where the stakes are even higher for us as individuals, because in this high-risk work world, our livelihoods and the livelihoods of our loved ones hang in the balance daily, practice, real, scheduled, purposeful daily practice of critical skills in our professions is frowned upon or completely ignored. Having to practice skills such as public speaking, listening, asking relevant questions, providing appropriate responses, practicing how to execute deep empathy, or how to earn trust, or how to be generous and creative about it, or leading a meeting, among many other functional and emotional skills, is seen as a sign of weakness by most people. It is seen as taking up precious time from a busy schedule of our really important activities, the real work that must be done. So practice is ignored. The well-known author Dan Heath states that the enemies of professional practice are pride, which says, I'm too good to practice. I'm already an expert. Look at all the years I put in. And fear, which says, I'm not going to expose myself to anyone here at work and be vulnerable? No way. And self-satisfaction, which says, hey, good enough is good enough. And I'm good enough. So there. Well, in this new world where artificial intelligence can replace many of the tasks that we currently perform, And when new skills such as emotional intelligence are required to be effective at work, coaching and accelerated practice become essential. And what is accelerated practice? Well, let me use what most companies call sales training, or what we call high-performance client relationship skills, as the example. But let me say that accelerated practice is a strategy, a methodology designed by Luxury Institute that enables an individual to achieve mastery of a specific client relationship building skill faster and better. Accelerated practice allows an individual to become agile and creative, not robotic or scripted. Accelerated practice strengthens the critical relationship building skills and enables the associate to integrate into the moment the ability to observe keenly, to learn rapidly, to anticipate with high probability what will or should happen next, to access appropriate solutions, to obtain feedback as they go along, and to adapt all of those elements seamlessly in the moment. So they can be an expert with every client and deliver extraordinary human experiences seemingly with ease. It looks natural to the observer, but it is the result of accelerated practice. And most importantly and uniquely, accelerated practice integrates that missing link of executing your professional functional skills, as they are called, which is the what part of an interaction with a client, with the how, that is the emotional intelligence, the human connection. So you do the what and the how brilliantly and seamlessly. It enables a sales associate to demonstrate 4 elements: their functional expertise, such as, say, product knowledge, alongside the emotional intelligence elements, such as deep empathy, trustworthiness, and generosity. By combining that simultaneous dual expression of functional expertise and emotional expertise, accelerated practice transforms every interaction from a transaction, from selling, into a high-performance relationship building experience. Let me give you a couple of examples of how you can execute accelerated practice for yourself. In accelerated practice, the associate and the coach need to identify a skill in each practice session that is a critical part of the client experience, and one that the associate finds the most challenging. For example, asking for the next appointment, or asking for a referral, or reaching out, making a phone call, writing an email, doing a text to do follow-up outreach. All of those areas that many associates find difficult, and they tend to choke when they do them or do them poorly. When you go into the practice session, you need to exhaust, you need to identify, be creative of all the ways that you can practice, for example, how to get a referral. Identify the ways that you'll be rejected and identify 10, 15 different ways that you'll be rejected and figure out how you would respond. And then identify 10 or 15 ways in which the client accepts to give you a referral and identify how you would respond in those situations. Lots of situations. Practice those over the different days in your 15-minute sessions. When you're practicing the what of getting a referral, simultaneously and consciously focus on improving your emotional intelligence skills, the how part. And you need to ask yourself during those sessions, during those practice sessions, how can I demonstrate my expertise? How can I exercise my deep empathy of asking good questions, practice listening, practicing to appropriately respond? How can I verbally and non-verbally show that I'm trustworthy, that I'm serving the client's interests? How can I go above and beyond to be generous and kind? What did I learn about that client? What do I know about that client? Or people like that client that can help me identify a generous action, a kind gesture. You need to plan a time to conduct your accelerated practice 15 minutes per day, usually in the morning when you're fresh, so that you can be completely and intimately focused on practice. This is a deep concentration exercise. And then you practice, as we described, the correct behaviors. You can use a mirror and you can video yourself to help you master those correct behaviors, to help you observe, analyze, see yourself fearlessly. You can review your practice and give yourself clear, objective feedback to constantly improve your practice and your skills over time. And once you identify the correct behavior, either through practice or through the coaching you received or you learned from a client interaction, once you identify what that correct behavior is, slow it down. And when you have it right, repeat it. That correct behavior 3 to 5 times. Don't stop after you get it right the first time and say, oh, I got this. Continue to practice those right skills, because that is what will rewire your brain. Periodically, have a peer or your manager practice with you, and then actively listen to their feedback. Take notes. Have a notebook for each one of those practice sessions where you take notes of the specific behaviors that you want to work on to correct and how to correct them. At all levels of performance in any profession, the great coaches during their coaching sessions teach their students how to practice alone or with peers so that they can become intimately, objectively, and fearlessly self-aware, self-measuring, self-assessing, self-coaching, and self-correcting with deep focus and with calm, with ease. That skill for life is the most important gift that a coaching program can give its professionals and its students. Now, right about now, many business professionals are thinking and pushing back. They're saying, listen, I've learned by doing. I've learned by doing things live daily, and that's how I became a master. That's my practice, going live daily. I don't need to sit for 15 minutes and practice. The science says that if we were to test, we were to do a test and control of your career, your professional life, and we were to run it, we would find that if you had done coaching with accelerated practice, you would have achieved far better performance, far faster, if you had done it with accelerated practice. So I wish you good luck. But mostly, though, I like to wish people great skill. Skill derived from great coaching driven by accelerated practice. Thank you.